Welcome to the Atlanta Real Estate Podcast. Our mission is to highlight Atlanta, the lifestyle, the amazing homes, communities, industry professionals, and the exceptional Atlanta real estate agents who make it all happen, so buyers and sellers can make better decisions about where to live and which agent is right for you. I'm your host, Mike Miller.
And I'm Shelly Miller.
And today we have a special guest, Ross Harrell with Dorsey Alston. And yay, the thing about Ross is, no one knows this about me, but I have a secret hobby where I use software called Reason and Ableton. And no one in my life has ever known what that was except Ross, because he is a music producer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So welcome to the podcast, Ross. Really excited to have you here. And I promise I won't bore everyone with too much producer talk.
Yeah, no, that's okay because I'm on the Logic team. Which
Okay.
Is,
Okay. More professional.
Yeah.
I'm using the real bargain basement tools.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So I just do it, like I said, I just use it for like the intro music to this and some lead ins and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's fun, you know? So how long did you do? So now you're a real estate agent. Just catch me up about, you were a producer and what were you doing?
Yeah, I'd say I started professionally as a music teacher.
Okay.
I was just out of college in my 20s and really with not much direction, except I was good at music, and someone suggested that I teach, and I was really afraid of kids.
Yeah.
In my 20s. and after I taught like a few kids, I ended up teaching. I loved it. I ended up teaching for 10 years. And now I like kids more than I like adults.
That's awesome.
I'm scared of adults now.
Yeah. Me too. That's awesome. So you were teaching, what do you teach? Like guitar, piano?
Yeah, I teach guitar, piano, voice. And then I got into like drums and ukulele.
Wow.
And all kinds of instruments. And that kind of led into, I got like gigs here and there. And I just like, have all this music equipment now. Yeah. And so I've recorded a lot of people, mostly like younger people or people starting out that like have original songs, singer-songwriter kind of thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
do you work with them and help them like are you I guess what I'm trying to say is the other day, this guy was second on Billboard's top, 40. Yeah. And he was making fun of number one, which was Ariana Grande, I think. But he goes, look at how many songwriters there were. There were like 16 songwriters.
Right.
And he's like, I wrote my song by myself,
Yeah.
And she's got 16 songwriters. Is that what you would do, is help massage a song and help make it better?
Exactly. Okay. And I try to like from beginning to end, because I work with like a lot of amateur people and younger people. I try to the product I was trying to provide in my studio was like, you just come to me with a song and I'll make that song like on the radio. I would even put it on Spotify, iTunes, and all that stuff for them.
See,
that's
he'll
awesome.
promote them and everything.
Yeah. You're exactly like Rick Beato.
Yes, yeah. So I'll play every instrument on it. I'll help arrange it and kind of write the music behind it. And I'm really into just music theory and sound in general. So
Okay.
Yeah, I try to do it all.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, if you're not into music, and Rick Beato is a YouTube personality who is a producer as well, for those who don't know. And if you don't know about music, every time I get into it, I realize it's like calculus. It's incredibly difficult. There's so many, there's minors and fifths and sixteenths, and then the timing, and then everything that you can do with the sound to process it. It's ridiculous. It's a time suck for me. It takes me like 20 hours to make a simple beat.
Exactly. Yeah. It's perfect for me. It's perfect for people like us that are constantly trying to, like, I feel like, explore and learn. You can endlessly explore and learn about music and production and music theory. I mean, it never ends.
No, it doesn't. And then there's the styles: jazz, bossa nova.
Oh my gosh, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rock, pop. It keeps going. Anyway.
Right. Yeah,
So,
as soon as I'm into one instrument, one style, like a little too much, I go to a totally different thing. I pick up a different instrument, different genre.
that's awesome. Keep it fresh.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That would keep it fresh.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how my track record and my career has been also.
Okay. So we have a lot in common. We're like brothers, basically. So you were a producer, but during COVID, from talking to you, it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like during COVID, you couldn't do the teaching thing. So you looked into like another lucrative thing, and you decided on CDL, right?
Right. I mean, it's really, like, I could have kept doing teaching and producing, but I mean, I think just like I said earlier, I get really restless, and I can't stop, like, looking over there and like, what is that like? I've always been interested in trucking and driving. I love driving. I love I'm really into diesel engines. Specifically.
That's cool.
And yeah, so I mean, I love just sitting in the car for a long time and zoning out. Or my friend was just explaining this last night, even at band practice. He was saying the car is like my time to meditate, zone out.
Yeah.
I can listen to an entire album. I can listen to a podcast. You can listen to the Atlanta Real Estate Podcast.
Yeah, there you go. Shout out.
You
Awesome.
can do whatever you want in your car. You can even catch up with a family member, and really zone in on the conversation.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I love that. So I got a CDL and got in the truck and drove across the country living in the truck for 2 years during COVID.
Wow. That's incredible. It's a lot, I know.
It was a lot. Yeah. It sounds, when I'm saying it, it sounds real simple, and I'm thinking about all the the difficulty and failure, and I mean, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not, the hard part isn't just backing the truck into a loading bay.
Right.
It's like what's funny is a police officer I knew and a trucker I knew both said the same thing. And that was that it's 90% boring and then like 10% just chaotic, cause you're coming down the road and nothing's happened for 4 hours. And then all of a sudden someone pulls out in front of you. You know what I mean?
That's what happens almost every day.
Oh, wow. It's crazy. And having to handle that, it's just,
right.
Insane.
Probably the biggest thing you're having to handle in the challenge is I hate to like throw people under the bus and stereotype, but the people that are in the trucking business is probably the most challenging. That was the biggest learning experience for me in like growing up, kind of like becoming an adult is dealing with a lot of different people with extreme accents that you can't even understand what they're saying.
Wow.
And like attitudes that just, like real bad attitudes is in the trucking industry.
I didn't even think about those people, there is a big network of people that help, with the transportation. So I bet there's especially now, like my dad was a truck driver, but that was back in the day, he had
Right.
very, the population was different then, let's put it that way. So I didn't even think about all the people that you would have to interact with.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a big challenge.
Well, so then that kind of brings up another question because, okay, you're a real estate agent now and you're with Dorsey Alston, which is a premier real estate agency. And they're not like the other real estate companies because there's some real estate companies that will, train you for free, just bring you in, right?
Right.
And you, as a real estate agent, I know you have to put your license somewhere, but with Dorsey Alston, they don't just accept anybody. Like they're not asking for people to come join them.
They don't actively hire.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to know somebody or you've got to be successful already to get into Dorsey Alston. So, what's the secret? How'd you do it?
Yeah, that's a perfect segue into talking about the biggest personality in my life, which is my dad, is a very successful agent with Dorsey Alston. He's been with Dorsey Alston for years. I want to say since the beginning, but I don't even know what that is, honestly, embarrassingly.
I looked him up, and apparently he's number one in Atlanta. So not Dorsey Alston, not Buckhead.
Normally the follow-up question is, like in Dorsey Alston, number one? No, in the metro Atlanta area, number one in sales volume for, I think it was about 10 years.
Wow. Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, that track record is just insane. So now you've joined the team, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I went and I did music, I did trucking. I was really trying to get as far away from real estate as I possibly could. And I sort of, became my own adult person through that process and went through the real estate school. I didn't even tell my dad. And I passed that on the first try because I got everyone in my class. I formed relationships with them and studied outside of class.
Oh, wow.
And they really helped me a lot.
How hard, just as an aside, how hard is the real estate school? Like,
I mean, I think it's hard, and I went to fancy private school, and I did pretty well, and I consider myself pretty smart and good at taking tests and studying and learning and all that stuff, and it's very hard for me. I tried it in my 20s, and I failed, which most people do fail it the first time.
Yeah, that's what I heard, like 60%, right?
Right. 60%. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I think it's 60.
But yeah, I wasn't really mature enough to handle that, and so I immediately just took it really personally, and I'm so upset. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, so, exactly.
I understand.
Yeah.
Sounds like me.
It took all of that, like growing up with trucking and teaching music lessons and all of that stuff to realize that, I'm not all that smart, and I need help for most things I do.
Yeah.
Don't we all?
Yeah, we all do. Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
so
and-
I got
well,
that help.
go ahead.
I got that help independently from my dad, which is really the biggest like self-confidence booster.
Yeah.
And only then was I was recruited by Keller Williams, and I went in there for an interview. And then I said, you know what, I will like go into Dorsey Alston and just see what they say, because I want to meet everybody and give everyone a chance before I jump into a job.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah.
And yeah, they sat me down, and they were right away. The brokers were just so genuine. And right off the bat, they said, we are considered like luxury real estate, but we don't really like that term, luxury real estate.
Okay.
And they will say also in our sales meetings, like, to the most success, the way to success is to be yourself. Be yourself. Be genuine. It's all about relationships, and the best way to form relationships is to like be honest and genuine and vulnerable and all that stuff. So,
well, I'm glad to hear it, because that's me.
I agree, and it gets easier as you get older. And if you don't allow it to happen, it will come out anyway.
Yeah.
So as you get older,
Yeah.
it's like you're forced to, and it's a fulfilling thing.
yeah.
And it's nice to see people that you would interview with, like, giving you that advice too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's impressive.
That is.
You don't
actually.
meet a lot of people that are that open and know themselves.
Yeah.
To be able
Usually
to give that
it's
advice.
all about, produce.
Yeah.
You've
Right.
gotta,
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Produce, which I got a lot of that growing up from my dad.
Yeah.
So
So to be number one, and see, that's the thing, is that my family is all in real estate, right? So I've got an uncle who's a developer, an uncle who's a real estate agent, an aunt who's a real estate agent, an aunt who's an appraiser. My stepbrother's an appraiser. My stepmother's an appraiser. You know what I mean? So I was like, I didn't want anything to do with it.
right.
So
Yeah.
I went into marketing,
Right.
And then, so then 30 years later, I realized, maybe there's something to the real estate that would be helpful,
Right.
And I realized that, maybe our family was built for real estate kind of thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
you and I really connected on the like the family members being on the phone all the time.
yeah, exactly.
Oh gosh.
So sick of it, So
So
what
tired of
about
that.
you? Yeah, were you like sick of hearing real estate stuff all the time? I mean, because to be
Yes.
number one in Atlanta, think about that. Number one in Atlanta,
Right.
you got to be doing several tens of
You're
millions
busy.
of dollars.
You're
Yeah,
very,
busy.
very busy.
Yeah.
And
Of course.
your phone is ringing off the hook.
Yeah. So,
And of course, my dad, was during that time. It was mostly like the AJC, the newspaper, would interview him, and they would, how did you get so successful? And his answer is always like, I just worked. There's nothing special about me. I just worked harder than anyone else. I just went to every single open house and every single thing that there was to go to. He was there. He was doing it.
wow.
I can imagine.
I can too. My
Yeah.
thing though is so here's how I feel. I've done a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and a lot of the mistakes I've made is just working blindly, without a plan, without a path.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if there's something he doesn't realize he's doing that is a strategy that he's actually playing out that he doesn't realize that he's actually doing, because there's a lot of people who work hard, but not a lot of people who are successful.
Actually now you've really perked my ears up wanting to learn something from you, because there definitely is things that he's doing that he won't explain anything. That's one of my giant frustrations is he will not explain anything to me. He tries, he does his best, but he's not the best at like step 1 you do this,
right.
Step 2, like he is so out there doing. He doesn't have time to like put it all together intellectually and explain it.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we've found that a lot of people who are successful, they don't know what they do to be successful.
Right.
They don't, and the process to lay that out, they don't have it, because they've never really thought about all the things they do to get to where they are.
The inverse of that is me, where like that's why that's why I started teaching music, is because I wasn't like a superstar musician or anything. So they say like those who can't do teach.
Yeah.
Well, it takes a knowledgeable person and a special person to teach too.
Exactly.
Like you just said, your dad isn't articulating to you his process.
Right.
So a good teacher is able to do that.
Right.
Right.
So that's also a special talent.
Exactly. Like, why do I need to learn scales? I'll
Right.
never play a song with scales.
Yeah. I was just teaching. I have a student, a guitar student, an adult that I was just exactly trying to teach him scales for
really,
and why, try to kind of explain to him why without talking, only doing. Is I learned in a teaching class, like, people kind of shut down the more you explain things to them.
Okay.
The more they shut down, and then we're, especially kids, are programmed to like, they will just copy what you do.
right?
Yes.
They're not listening to what you're explaining. They're just copying what you do. So, like I showed him how the scale, actually you can play every melody to every song with the major scale, pretty much.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you can get out your guitar and go do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and then here's what song do you like? Now let's play the melody with all those notes I just showed you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Nice.
I hadn't thought about it like that.
No, well, I think it was Ed Sheeran. Don't quote me on it, but I think it was Ed Sheeran just like a month ago said, with 4 chords, I can play every top 40 song.
It was him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, no. And he goes, give me a guitar. And they're like, name a song. And they named like 5 songs. And he's like, here's this one, 4 chords. This one, same 4 chords.
Yeah.
This one, same 4 chords. So it's kind of wild. And that's why music is so complex, because with just 4 chords, you can make amazing amounts of different individual music.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going off on music.
Right, I know. Now we're lost.
I know.
What were we originally talking about?
Well, so when you went to work for your dad, like, how was that? Because I'm sure he like threw you to the wolves, kind of thing.
Yes. So,
Really?
I learned in the real estate school about dual agency. We learned all our different types of agency, dual agency, and that's, you're representing both the buyer and the seller in the transaction, and it's dangerous. And
Okay.
because of that, there can be a conflict of interest.
Right.
Yes.
And
Right.
so a lot of brokerages don't allow it. And the first thing my dad had me do was, Ross, we have a buyer. He wants to buy inside 285, and he wants to be on waterfront property
Wow.
inside 285.
This is a task.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a serious task.
Yeah.
There's nothing for sale. There's no point in looking through MLS or anything like that. So we narrowed down to in Brookhaven. There's oh gosh, why is it? I'm blanking now. What's that? Silver Lake? I don't know
Okay.
why I think that's wrong.
Okay.
Anyway, there's one lake in Brookhaven, and he had me canvas basically. I went for a jog around. It was like a 7-mile loop around the lake.
Yeah.
I drove around the lake. I kind of did some research on the area, and then he had me write a personalized letter to each homeowner that had lakefront property.
Wow.
And I got really into like kind of stalking people.
Yeah.
I bet.
Basically. Trying to learn as much as I could about them. And we got one response to
Wow.
our letter.
Wow.
A couple wanted to sell their house. Their kids were moving away, and they wanted to be closer to them. And
Wow.
Do you remember how many letters you sent?
we sent, maybe I want to say like 50, 60 letters.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Not a ton of letters, but the point is they were really personalized, and I did a lot of research.
Wow, that's really telling to me, because no one will do that. Like last
Right.
week on $1 Million Listing, they had Tracy had her daughter knocking on doors to try to get people interested in the house down the street.
Yeah.
And I've never actually seen an agent do that. Like do they teach you that in real estate school? Because I've never seen anyone do it.
I mean, I think the right now, especially, like, anyone who's knocking on your door and doesn't know you is like, just don't answer the door.
Yeah.
And don't do anything.
Right.
Don't interact with that person at all. So you really need to, and Dorsey Alston too will tell us that other companies will like send out flyers and do all this like marketing that we don't do that, because the overall idea is to make it as personalized as possible. In our letter, we made sure to say that we're not soliciting business from you just to sell your house. Like, and this gets me back to dual agency. We have a specific buyer, that will buy, and so yeah, we're not just trying to solicit business from you.
You did basically what you said they told you at Dorsey Allen, that you were just yourself. So the note was exactly, here's why I'm doing this.
Exactly.
It was right to the point, and like you said, personalized. I think those help a lot.
Right.
You put all your cards on the table right at the beginning, so they know, oh, this isn't going to be, he's not going to start calling me or banging on my door or these things.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But it's also good because that's like really, it's guerrilla style marketing,
It is. Yeah.
I mean, that's something that no one will do.
Yeah.
And how long did it take him to respond?
I think like about a week.
That's nothing.
No, it's not.
No,
okay.
That's amazing,
So you
Ross.
get their letter. I mean, are you jumping up and down? Are you having a party
Yeah.
because you found the needle in a haystack?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, don't get too excited yet. I even like, Actually, as being my first transaction, that actually is exactly the response I had. Thanks, Shelly, for reminding me. I was freaking out, jumping up and down.
I bet.
Yeah,
I would have been.
That was real exciting. Now I'm looking back on my previous self, going like, there's a lot of steps to a transaction where something is so likely to cause this to fall through.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that either.
Yeah,
there's a lot of cases that could happen, right?
Yeah. We've had 2 deals, I think, that fell through.
Okay.
After binding.
Okay. What is it like? Is it they fail the inspection, or it doesn't appraise for the right price, or
on
funding?
ours we
funding.
had just the buyer didn't want to buy.
Okay. Change their mind. Okay.
Just changed their mind, yeah.
Okay. Hey, yeah, no problem. Did
From
you
my
send him a
perspective-
bill for the 400 hours you spent?
Yeah. No.
No. I know. I'm just teasing. But that is the one thing, is that real estate agents, I didn't realize this, and I still don't fully because I'm not a real estate agent, but in dealing with them, I've realized that you work hard and you work a lot, and you don't really have any, I mean, you have time to yourself, but if someone calls you at 8:00 at night, you're probably going to answer the phone.
Right. Right.
So that's,
And I do. My dad does. In fact, just like speaking as a member of a family, I really appreciate. I know 100% of the time when I call my dad, he's gonna answer the phone.
yeah. Yep.
That gives everyone a lot of reassurance. That like if I need anything, and back to that deal, even the whole deal is about like the inspection, it's about the details.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Sure is.
It's about like the contractors, like the survey. There was a big issue with the survey on that one, since it's there's a lot of water around, there's setbacks, and the house is older and needs work, but can you really do the work?
Yeah.
So that's really what it was all about.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting.
I I file away things like negotiating, and really a lot negotiating, and a lot of that stuff I leave to my dad.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I'm not gonna say file it away in the category of stuff that doesn't matter, but it can't really matter to me, because what I'm really worried about is getting all the details right.
Right. Okay.
And then I've been told by clients that, Ross, you are so like, I drive my truck around to clients' houses and help them move. It helped them like pick up heavy stuff and do some cleaning. And the clients will tell me that, because I was so attention to detail, I'm that way with the contracts too, trying to read and learn the contracts, and the settlement statements and everything. And the clients will tell me, because I'm so detailed and pay attention to all those little things, that it gives everybody in the transaction so much more confidence.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. So
bet.
it sounds like do you have a process? Because that's very detailed. And
Yeah.
I mean, and buying a house is extremely stressful. I mean,
can
it
you
is
have
your
a
biggest purchase of your life.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Or is it like some kind of process that you have to use as a base, and then you have to do all these ancillary things?
Yeah, I wish I had a more structured process, but yeah, because of the style of my dad, we're winging it all the time, and I'm just always thinking like, Ross, like don't act like you're too good for this or you're above anything. That's what I'm always telling myself. You are not too good to, like move someone's furniture or like meet with the contractor. Like those are the things that matter. Those are the things that I'm focusing on and doing. This week so far, all I've been doing is helping our seller move out of his condo.
Wow.
Just meeting with the movers and scheduling everything and,
Very hands-on.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
that's above and beyond. But see,
it is.
that's a good point as to what real estate agents actually do, because
Right.
I've said this several times on several different podcasts, so I'm sure if you've watched several, you're tired of hearing this, but
Well, it's the truth.
yeah, the truth is that I never realized all the work that real estate agents did, even though I have some in my family. Just having to deal with like the inspector and the pest control guy and the appraiser to come by
Right.
and giving the appraiser the comps that you use to value the house and,
Right.
on and on and on. And well, what if there was termites and now we got to get a bond and, and then they
Yeah.
need to help moving the rest of their stuff out and just on and on and on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving
Yeah,
parts.
there's a lot of moving. Yeah, thanks. There's a lot of moving parts, and you just don't. I guess you can't have a list of okay, we're going at it, and this is step one,
Right.
because it's different every time, right?
That's right. And you're like I probably my specialty is like getting to know as many different kinds of people as possible and just getting along with as many different kinds of people as possible. Like the clients and the agents, I kind of leave that more up to my dad. But then like the contractors and the inspectors and stuff, I think that's what gives a lot of our clients a lot of anxiety, is just like, oh, I got to schedule like this work, and it can be
Stressful.
really difficult to just like get some people on the phone to, and work out the price, get the estimate. Like that's where a lot of my trucking experience came in, where most of the people I showed up to in trucking were immediately angry that I was even there. Yeah.
So you got a lot of life skills with that job.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, and when someone has a bad attitude, it's like don't blame them. It's just smile and laugh and tease them back, and you'll work through it. It's gonna be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, I think a happy and well-rounded person can do that. So
Yeah.
that says something about you, Ross, because sometimes that's really hard, to be able to
Thanks,
do that
yeah.
when somebody's throwing that at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about specifically this time in Arizona, this one receiver in Arizona, just the by far the worst attitude of any person I've ever met. And they already don't like when I show up early. You have to show up early to be on time. And he's getting to work, and there's already a truck there that needs to be unloaded. And that just set him off. And he told me, go away and don't come back for like, I waited in the truck stop for like 3 days, I think.
What?
Because I was a little early. He didn't like that.
Oh my goodness. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's wow. Yeah. Yeah. See, it's dealing with stuff like that and people like that really. I guess you're glad you're doing real estate now.
Yeah.
Yes, very very glad. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Exactly.
I'm so thankful for like we were just talking about, the lessons I learned from that was like invaluable.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. That's how I am. I know a lot, but the reason I know a lot is because I messed up a lot and I've experienced a lot of really, crap.
Right. Right.
You know? And so I can say crap, right?
You can say crap.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, so you just have to learn that way. And that's kind of neat too, that your dad is like throwing you in there and you're having to learn by osmosis. You're just having to go, okay, I guess that means this and I guess that means that. Because I think that in a year, you're going to be like a monster. You're going to know everything and you're going to be able to talk to anyone about anything.
Yeah. Hope that's the hope for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I see it.
And Ross, how long have you been doing this? I don't know that.
I started in April last year.
Okay.
All right.
I think April.
Yeah.
I'm pretty bad with, I don't even know our when we got married.
Oh.
Neither of us really know when our anniversary is.
I only know because it's in my ring,
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
His grandmother said that his grandfather never remembered, so she had it engraved in his
it's on
ring.
the inside of your ring?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it on the inside of my ring?
I don't know.
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, you can just have multiple celebrations throughout the year.
Yeah.
Whenever you guys think that it might be. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Well, I could talk to you forever, Ross. And I had all kinds of other stuff to ask you about, but I've had so much fun. Let me ask you real fast before we cut it off. What areas are you focused on? For your real estate, is it just Buckhead? Do you go outside of Buckhead?
Yeah, we've only so far done. Yeah, I'm making sure I got it right. Yeah, we've only operated in Buckhead so far.
Okay.
As like deals with my dad and me.
Okay.
But I, of course, I always want to explore. I'm always looking at like what else is there out there that I don't know about, and it's like an opportunity to learn. So I'm always I get excited when there's something. The farther away it is, the more I'm excited about it. And I want to drive there from, my trucking experience. I love driving. So I've held some open houses that are pretty far away. And,
I completely get that. When he just had an appraisal in Dallas, and I was like, oh, I haven't been there. Let's take that hour and a half drive, just to get away.
Yeah, I'm trying to drum up my own business independent of my dad. And for a while, I was taking, my landscaper was looking at houses in Dallas with 5 or 6 acres of land.
Wow,
Something that was like a deal where they could get in on a whole bunch of land that they could own and live on, which what I thought that was pretty smart. I think that's, and that's something I want to learn about too. So I showed them a lot of properties in Dallas.
Awesome. Did they end up buying one?
No.
Okay. All right.
But you had nice drives there.
Yeah.
Right. I've really tried to get outside of Buckhead, and nothing has happened so far. So I'm
sure it will.
I really understand from a new agent's perspective that doesn't have someone like my dad. Like it is really discouraging, honestly. I can see how it could be really discouraging to start making your own money as a real estate agent.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, my grandmother was also the largest broker in Rockdale County for all throughout the 80s.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't mention that, but she said...
Where is Rockdale County?
So Conyers.
Conyers, okay, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Out 20.
Yeah, out 20.
Yeah.
East of Atlanta. So she told Shelly that she would be a great real estate agent as long as I could keep a job. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she was like, basically, you know, you have to have someone else who's bringing money in so that you can start up your business.
Right.
You know, get it
exactly.
ramped up.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So-
why I still have clients that I teach guitar lessons to, and you gotta supplement.
Yeah.
A lot of the agents in our office have other jobs. Yeah.
Right.
I feel like that was, indicative of real estate, but actually it's indicative of all of us now.
Yeah.
We all are kind of doing something else too.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. It seems
Right.
like everybody's got a side hustle nowadays.
That's right.
Yeah.
Everyone does have a side hustle. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it pays to be into a whole bunch of things like
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah. Well,
Definitely.
eventually one of them's got to work, you know?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes.
So anyway, well, Ross, man, really had a great time. Really appreciate you being on the podcast.
Yeah.
Sure do.
Would love to have you back. And if you've got any homes or condos or anything that is, that you'd like to show off in Buckhead or wherever.
Yeah, we have
let me
one at the
know.
Wakefield right now.
Okay.
At the corner of Peachtree and West Wesley. That's the one that we just moved everything out of.
Okay.
The styling was a little outdated.
Okay.
So we've moved everything out, and we're working on patching all the holes that were left, and
Yeah.
we're gonna refinish the floors and
Oh, nice.
so yeah,
We'll-
but it's
we'll
it's
add
on the
a-
market now.
Okay, we'll add a link to that
Yeah.
property in the
That'd-
description.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I'll
Yeah.
find it and
We'll get that from you.
yeah, I'll get that from you and I'll put it in the description. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And
Perfect.
yeah. And if you ever need anything, let us know. We'd love to help you. And again, really appreciate you being on the podcast. Had a great time.
Oh my gosh. Thank you
Definitely.
for just letting me talk about whatever, and especially non-real estate related things. It's so
It's our favorite kind of conversation
Yeah.
because, we're all trying to do our best, and it's
Yeah.
really fun to find somebody who's, entertaining and fun to talk to.
Exactly.
Oh, thanks y'all.
Yeah.
It's been great. Thank you so much.
Good. Yeah. No worries. Well, thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you in the next one.